Stock futures are up this morning after a volatile week, and this comes after the Fed hiked interest rates amid growing fears of a recession. Dow future jumped 458 points, while the S&P climbed over 1.7%. Tesla CEO Elon Musk says that the company will cut its salaried workforce by nearly 10% over the next 3 months. The company has grown to about 100,000 employees across the globe, and the cuts will impact everyone from human resources to software engineers. Rolls-Royce employees in the UK are getting a boost to help combat economic uncertainty. About 14,000 staff will see a one-time bonus of about $2,500, and 11,000 workers will also be offered a 4% raise. Wow. While the president tries to calm nerves around a recession, economists are keeping an eye on stagflation, a term popping up more and more as inflation soars and the economy shows signs of slowing down. So joining me now to talk more about this is Rachel Siegel. She is an economics correspondent for the Washington Post. Boy, we are learning all these new terms now. I always thought there was only one kind of recession. Now I've learned there are many different types of recession. And now I'm learning about stagflation. What does it mean? And what does it mean sort of for an economist? And what does it mean in real terms for me?
Well, as you mentioned, it's a period of high inflation and slowing growth. And the reason that that term is so visceral for economists and for Americans is that it's a term that is used to describe the pain and really sort of fraught economic times of the 1970s and early 1980s. It was a time of very high inflation when people felt it in every single part of their life, even more so than they do today. Now, even as there are concerns about a recession and obviously inflation that is way too high, we're not there yet. We have a lot of concerns about a recession, but obviously any sort of frame of reference to decades ago is not very much comfort right now.
So then what are economists seeing when they start to talk about this? Are there any indicators that stagflation or recession is on the horizon?
Well, one of the main things that we look for, that economists look for, is a slip in consumer spending. Consumer spending is one enormous driver of the economy, and it's also a reflection of how much confidence people have that they can spend money and that they won't end up having to pull back in order to make key savings down the line. Now, we're not seeing major slowdowns in the data just yet, but there are little anecdotes that are starting to bubble up that I think reflect the anxiety that people are starting to feel. We're starting to see people pull back on eating at restaurants or booking travel, or just wondering if maybe it's worth it to save now in case things become even more expensive later on. Those are signs that a recession could be on the horizon if the economy slows, and we'll have to see if anything follows that.
You know, the thing I think that concerns people the most when you hear recession is that there's going to be widespread layoffs. It's really, we just did the story about how Tesla is going to be laying off, but it's hard to tell if that's just something for for technology companies and not for other companies. So what do you do if you're an average American, you're watching this conversation? How do you prepare for a possible recession? How do you make your money last a little longer?
Sure. I mean, I think any form of saving right now is some of the best things that people can do, paying off credit card debt as interest rates go up. It is possible that the unemployment rate will tick up just a bit as policymakers do everything within their power to slow down the economy. The hope is that there won't be widespread layoffs or anything close to the kind of unemployment that we saw at the beginning of the pandemic. But there certainly is a fear that in order to control inflation, that there might have to be trade-offs in the other direction in order to slow the economy down, especially since officials can't really do that with the kind of precision that would avoid layoffs. But as you mentioned, saving, making sure that you're in a secure job, paying off credit card debt are some of the key things people can do now, especially if they're starting to have nerves about what might come in the future.
All right, Rachel Siegel, thank you very much.
Thank you.